Welcome to this episode of Engineering Success Profile Editions. Today we're joined by Amber O'Connor, who's going to be talking to us about her role as a Programme Manager at Siemens Energy. Hi Amber, and welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you very much for having me.
It's great to have you here. Can we start right at the beginning? What made you choose a career in engineering?
I guess for me it's a little bit strange because I didn't necessarily look at myself and go, I want to be an engineer.
Yeah.
I would hold my hand up and say, I didn't even know what an engineer was.
Yeah.
When I went to my parents and gave them the option, they looked at me and went, you don't want to be that, that's dirty, that's a man's world.
Right.
The typical stereotype. But for me,
Yeah.
you know, someone who was doing an apprenticeship just brought it to my attention and said, would you ever consider that? And I looked at sort of the skill set. I thought that I wanted to maybe do design. I was quite like artistic in that way.
Right.
So I looked at my skill set and just went, oh, do you know what? I don't necessarily just want to go to college and follow that standard route.
Yeah.
For me, that didn't necessarily like fulfill me.
Right.
So I applied for the one role and I got it, and here I am 10 years later as an engineer.
Right. Yeah. So what route then did you take into engineering? Was it the apprenticeship route?
Yeah, so I did a 3-year technical apprenticeship. It was
Right.
with Siemens Energy. So that was a mixture of, so 1 year full-time in college. I learned like practical skills like machining. It was great.
Right.
Also some like actual hardcore knowledge about what engineering actually is.
Yeah.
And then from year 2 onwards, I did rotations within the business to understand different departments, whilst also finishing off my national certificate and going on to higher national certificate.
Yeah.
And then I guess after that is when I naturally migrated into my role. But I was really fortunate that at the same time I got sponsored to do my degree, which I studied for part-time.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of people that think that if you do an apprenticeship that you give up the opportunity of going for a degree.
That's right. Yeah.
But it's not true, and I'm not saying that every employer will do that. Obviously there's a financial commitment to it.
Yeah.
But if you demonstrate the willing and can provide a suitable business case to prove, you know, why that would be viable,
Yeah.
then they'd be crazy not to consider it. So I feel very fortunate, and obviously with the route I took, I got paid.
Yeah.
I learned.
Yeah.
And you know, I've now got 10 years of work experience, whereas if I'd have gone, you know, to college and then to university and then started my career, I'd probably be 5 years behind.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Do you think it's important to get the degree? I mean, I personally think it's important if you can get an employer to sponsor you to get a degree. I think it's a real string, you know, to your bow. Do you think the same?
yeah, I think for me personally, so because I'm more of a technical role, I think that my degree has given me a lot of skills that I wouldn't necessarily have directly gained from the workplace.
Right.
However, there's other roles within this industry where I wouldn't necessarily say you need a degree.
No.
So I think it really depends on the situation that you're in.
Yeah.
And yeah, some people will look at themselves and go, well, you know, I'm not very good at exams and writing essays and stuff, so that wouldn't be for me. And that's fine, and it doesn't necessarily mean that an engineering career isn't open to them, because there's several routes in and several options.
Yeah. So obviously you're a program manager. You didn't actually start as a program manager, because we don't start there. So what positions did you previously hold to work your way up to where you are?
Yeah, so when I was doing my rotations in my apprenticeship, I joined a team which was called the Equipment Health Monitoring and Performance Team.
Right.
And I've actually never left, in theory.
Okay.
So when I finished my apprenticeship, I started as a performance engineer. So I was responsible for almost passing off the performance of gas turbines around the world. I've travelled to loads of countries, and I've been, you know, the sole technical responsibility for running a gas turbine, which is scary.
Brilliant. Yeah.
And then I guess to diversify myself, I went more to the other side of my department, which was the equipment health monitoring.
Okay.
So I developed sort of engineering solutions and how we can detect different issues with gas turbine and basically detect failures before they occur.
Right.
So both very technically based roles.
Yeah.
And then when Siemens Energy, well, when Siemens purchased the Rolls-Royce Energy business,
yeah,
is that we naturally had to migrate loads of our systems and processes. And I guess in me, I've always been quite an organized person.
Right.
So I wanted to step up and actually take the lead on doing that, which naturally fit me into this program manager role.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
So it's all of my steps have just been a natural progression of me building up my skill set and diversifying myself.
Right. Yeah. 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 So what does your role actually entail then? What do you do?
So it's quite a mouthful. If I am the engineering program manager for remote diagnostic services, and people look at me and go, "Don't know."
Yeah.
And to put it simply, we have gas turbines all around the world,
yeah.
and it's my job to enable a service where we remotely monitor them. So we gather, harvest data, and we analyze that. And by doing that, is that I can check in on their performance, make sure that they're running right, the right temperatures, pressures, and if anything occurs, we basically enable a more immediate response. Whereas
Right.
sometimes if we don't have that service in place, a customer might phone us up, and then you've got that awkward thing where you've got different cultures, different languages,
Yeah.
and then it's, oh, can you actually send me a screenshot of this? Can you give me that data? Can you do this?
Yeah.
And it can take hours or days to establish what's really going on.
Right.
Whereas because I have a direct link, I can
Yeah,
see
yeah.
what they can see.
Yeah.
We can work together to really quickly resolve the problem. And in today's day and age, that's so key, and especially with the pandemic that we're in currently, customers found it even more useful because they are not having as many people on site.
Yeah.
So it's been such a great tool, and digitalization really is our future.
Yeah. Of course. So what's the most challenging part of your job?
So I think working with customers all around the world, like I've just mentioned, you know, you've got different cultures, different languages, and sometimes communication's really difficult and you can misunderstand people.
Yeah.
So I have to almost step back sometimes and really try to understand what the customer requirements are and take my time, work with them, build up relationships.
Yeah.
And also the point about being a woman in this position is that there's some cultures where women still aren't seen as equal, and you really have to build up relationships with those customers to make them value your opinion. And that is part of the job. And although I used to struggle with it, I now understand that, you know, it is how it is. And if you work with these people, these organizations, eventually you do get that level of respect. And that's really rewarding.
Yeah. So it goes on to our next question. What's the most rewarding part of your job?
Yeah, so I think being able to make an impact, make a change, you know, there's some sort of engineering solutions, ways of detecting issues that we still use day to day now, and I'm really proud that some of my engineering is being used. But at the same time, where I look at my role that I'm now in, is that, you know, I'm able to influence people by the position that I have. I've got a team that I can develop, and those people skills really does like fill me with warmth. So that's so rewarding.
So you were a finalist in the IET Young Woman Engineer of the Year Awards in 2019. You've won the We Are the City Rising Star Award in 2020, and also the Electronics Weekly Bright Spark in 2020. So you've obviously accomplished quite a lot. Does this help give you a greater platform to promote engineering, you know, to younger people and also, you know, women in engineering? Does it really help?
Yeah, I think so. I know that especially women, we find it really hard to have that confidence and that self-belief, and I'm definitely in that bucket, and I really pushed myself in terms of either applying for these roles or having people around me that nominated me. But it's helped me expand my network, and I now because I'm so passionate about STEM and promoting engineering, it's now given me this great platform where I can influence other people. And I'm not saying that engineering is for everyone.
Yeah.
However, I think that it's a great career option. It's really diverse, and that it could be a career for anyone. So, you know, I really like to use this platform to share that message.
Yeah, yeah, and we know it's important that we attract younger people into our industry. Obviously, there's a huge skills gap. What would your message be to those people to try and attract people that maybe not even thought about engineering? What's your message to them?
I think my message would be to definitely have a look at the industry. There's so many different routes within it. So I'm a mechanical engineer, but my network is full of so many different engineers, and even today I come across people that do something completely different within the sector. And if you can touch base with someone, be able to speak to them, really understand who they are, what do they do, what do they look like, because having role models really enables you to understand, you know, what's achievable. And I think the key thing for me is, engineering's diverse and it's exciting, and I go into my job every single day and do something different, and that really does get me up in the morning. And that's the best thing. So if that's the type of career that you want, then engineering and STEM is definitely for you.
Amber, that's it. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.